Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome to CCG VIP Luncheon. I'm Li Daokui, Secretary General and co-founder of Center for China and Globalization. Today we gather here for the second edition of this VIP Luncheon series, building upon the resulting success of our inaugural luncheon, where we embarked on thought-provoking journey to anticipate the future of China's economic development under the complicated geopolitical and geoeconomic complex, and engaging dialogue on global issues that resonate with us all. Our distinguished speakers today are two big names. Later you will know who they are in their respective fields. People know them very well, who will provide us with an insightful understanding of the world and the Chinese economic landscape. Mr. Ronnie Chan and Dr. Li Daokui, both are well-known figures in their respective field. I think Ronnie is here already, and Ronnie is the Honorary Chair of Hong Kong Property Limited, is a visionary leader whose influence extends behind and beyond this successful business and among the think tank philosophy and academics. And Ronnie later will share his insights into potential and the opportunities that lie ahead. Later, Henry will introduce Ronnie. Second speaker will be Dr. Li Daokui, who is a well-known economist in China. Let me introduce our distinguished guests as well. We are honored to have the presence of the following ambassadors. His Excellency, Her Excellency Dr. Andrew, Ambassador of Ireland to China. Welcome. Her Excellency Mrs. Irit Vipel, Ambassador of Israel to China. Welcome. His Excellency Mr. Kinji Kanasuji, Ambassador of Japan to China. His Excellency Mr. Paulo Masumito, Ambassador of Portugal to China. His Excellency Mr. Pradeep Rawat, Ambassador of India to China. His Excellency Hussein Hamadi, Ambassador of UAE to China. His Excellency Mr. Henry, Ambassador of Barbados to China. We also express our sincere gratitude to the diplomats from the European Union, Indonesia, Croatia, New Zealand, Malta, Canada, Germany, France, Norway, and Argentina for their participation and contribution to our events, as well as the representatives from various international organizations, multinational companies, and successful entrepreneurs. Of course, we have a few, the head and the bureau chief of well-known international press, including The Economist, AFP, CNN, South China Morning Post, Reuters, BBC, and Delu. Welcome all of you to join us. Later, I would like to hand over the microphone to Henry Wang, the founder and the president of Center for China and Globalization, who is also the former Council of China State Council, the director of China People's Institute of Foreign Affairs. So, Henry, you can chair the later and introduce our two distinguished speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liao, and distinguished excellencies and distinguished representatives of different embassies, of course, also from different organizations, our media friends, and also representative from international club here, Mr. Wu as well. So it's really a great honor again that CCG's organized its VIP luncheon. This is the second in a series. We have decided to launch this luncheon series is really to providing a platform and to really engage with the diplomatic community and also, of course, the media and also our business community. And the purpose is really to have an exchange platform and inviting the well-known distinguished speakers that to share their views with us, and also have dialogues and Q&A and all the good exchanges. So the first speaker today, actually, I would really like to introduce formally is Mr. Ronnie Chan. He's the honorary chair of Hong Kong Property Limited. He said he's retired. I don't know if he has really. We just saw him in Berlin at the Global Solution Summit. He's very active there. And also he's the chairman of the Asia Society Hong Kong Center. When we talk about organizing launches and events, Ronnie's the pro. He's really doing all those great events in Hong Kong we keep seeing. But also, furthermore, he's also the co-chair of Center for China Globalization. So this is something that we're very proud of. Ronnie is very supportive and all those years. And but of course, Ronnie is the Hanwoo property is a public listed in Hong Kong and founded in Hong Kong in 1960. So it's a long time, and expanding into mainland in 1992. So Ronnie knows both Hong Kong, mainland, Great Bay areas so well, and he's active in many non-profit organizations. So that's really something I think Ronnie is very unique. He's and also educational organization. He's the chairman of the executive committee of the Better Hong Kong Foundation, which is a think tank in Hong Kong. He founded and chairs the China Heritage Fund, which preserves and conserves the heritage of architecture of historical significance in China, which is a part of the Forbidden City. He's the co-founding director of the Forbidden City Culture Heritage Conservative Foundation in Beijing. And he's a co-founder and chairman of the Center for Asia Philanthropy the Society. So you can see many titles that Ronnie has. And also he's, of course, the chairman emeritus of Asia Business Council. And of course, Ronnie serves as a governing on the advisory board of several think tanks as well, including the Peters Institute and the World Economic Forum, East-West Center, Pacific Council of International Policy, Eisenhower Fellowship, and many more. Of course, but the most important is the CCG co-chair. So, 1986, Ronnie co-founded the Morningside, a diversified investment group engaged in private equity and venture capital investing in North America, Asia, and Europe. So it is among the earliest private equity investor in Hong Kong and mainland China. So he witnessed the business development and he participated in many of that. And through the Morningside Foundation, this foundation has made major gifts, including the establishment of the Morningside College at the University of Hong Kong, and endowments to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, named after Ronnie Chan's father. So you can see he has done a lot of very significant public philanthropy activities, both in China and outside China. So I think Ronnie is a frequent international speaker. he speaks on a daily basis, I suppose, particularly in Hong Kong, and also travel widely and publish many articles in different international media. So we're very fortunate today that we have invited Ronnie. He just arrived to Beijing, and we are really very pleased to have him to share his views with us on his latest thinking as Asian and his perspective for current world, but also we could share a bit of his idea of where he's in Great Bay in Hong Kong and all the good things that he has experienced. And so, Ronnie, without further ado, the floor is yours. Let's welcome Ronnie, please.
Standing between you and lunch is really not a good idea. Anyway, thank you, Henry and Mabel, for inviting me to be here. I thought that perhaps I will frame my talk this way because Henry said I can say anything I want. So I decided to call it One Man's View of a Brave New World. I think it is probably fair to say that I'm the oldest person in this room. I'm 74. And I've been around, and I've never seen the world as troubled as it is today, probably since World War II, and that was before my days. And my father's generation went through hell because of all the trouble in China as well as with its neighbors. Whereas my generation is the luckiest. We saw nothing in terms of serious trouble. And so when we enter into this new phase, it's really time for us to stop and rethink where the world is going. So allow me to just share two incidents. One is not that important historically, but turned out to be very significant. The other is obviously very significant. And that is, allow me to just say a word about the Ukraine war. And then number two, the US-China relations. And I'm not going to get into all the details because you know it more than I do. But I just want to tell you from this one Asian's perspective, how do I see the world that is being shaped as we speak by these two events. Let me begin by telling you a story. In 2015, I was invited by a shareholder of mine, who is a Russian gentleman living in Shanghai, to speak in St. Petersburg. Many of you know that that's Putin's hometown, and he has this big event there every year, and that's attended by 9,500 people. And I was asked to speak on Asia, the only session on Asia. Last minute, I found out that somebody whom I know very well, that is Kevin Rudd, was to be share the podium with me, and I hired Kevin into the Asia Society when I was the then global chair of Asia Society. I invited him to join our Asia Society as the head of our think tank. And so I said, oh, wonderful. I'm nobody knows who I am. Most of you probably never heard of my name until Henry invited me to lunch here. And, but everybody knows Kevin Rudd. I said, very good, more people will come. Now, a 9,500 people event, how many people showed up? The only session on Asia, and the speaker of which, one of which is Kevin Rudd. How many showed up? Anybody? 27 people. Now, Kevin Rudd is somebody. Asia is important. And yet 27 out of 9,500 people showed up. And I would imagine that if the same event were to happen today, I would imagine that a lot more will be there. That means by 2015, Russia was uninterested in Asia. So after that session, the organizer came to me and said, Mr. Chan, President Putin wanted to invite you to his plenary session to share the podium with him. I said, oh, wow. Why? He wants 4 business people, and I represented Asia. Why? Because they don't have anybody from Asia. So last minute they found an Asian. The only reason I was on stage is because I am Asian. I look Asian. Anyway, so I asked Putin, I said, Mr. President, when it was my turn to speak, I said, how come only 27 people showed up? I'm sure you're foresighted, strategic thinking, all that stuff, but is your business community, are your citizens prepared for the rise of Asia? Don't forget, in the last 20, 30 years maybe, 32% of the global economic growth every year came from China alone. Not to mention Japan, Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, and many other countries. And so it is truly amazing that Asia was not in their calculation at that time. And so look at what happened today with the Ukraine war, with the Nord Stream 2 the way it is. They can no longer sell, at least not directly, to Europe. You have to go to India or wherever. I don't know America, but you know that better than I do. They have to sell to China. And so, for 319 years, since, what, 1697, when Peter the Great went to Western Europe, in 1703, or was it 04, that they built St. Petersburg and moved the capital there, until 2022, Russia was looking west to become part of the West. And finally, after 319 years, the West says, you're not one of us. Go home. And so what happened? A deal that could not have been signed between Russia and China, a gas deal, right, that was there for over a decade. Suddenly, within a matter of weeks, at most of months, it was signed. Now, of course, the same thing happened in 2014 when the Crimea War started. And so, think about it. When Russia, this big country, which has zero interest, I would say, in 2015, judging from my personal experience, until now they have no choice but to look toward the east. Think about the ramification that has in the whole wide world. So, the Ukraine war in itself is nothing. Regional war, the history is full of it. And even today in the world, there's still regional wars here and there. And yet this one is different, because it changed the entire international energy infrastructure. And so, like it or not, the world is a changed place. My Europeans, I know there's a lot of European friends here. My European friends, to them I can understand the psychological trauma to them that war finally returned to Europe. To them it was impossible almost. Some of them even say that with the EU and with this and that war is no longer possible. And that was only, what, 2-3 years ago that I heard such things. And I always find it incredibly naive, as if human nature has changed. That it's impossible for Europe to have war again. They're still telling me that. Within EU there will be no war. I said, you want to bet? I will buy you a lunch like this. And so my friends today in Europe are still in this dream world. I'm sorry, Anne, you are part of the Europe, you come from Europe, so I hope I'm not offending people too much. But if I am, it will be my last time here at CCG. I'll be gone after that. And so, the whole world has changed. And then another thing, sorry, Ambassador from Israel is here. Egypt and Israel discovered a lot of gas. And as you all know, I was in the Middle East 7 times last year. I was in UAE, and then they were saying just a few months ago. And Egypt and Israel now have a lot of energy. And I don't know, Israel, at least 100 years, you have no problem with energy and you can export. And so my question is, when Europe can no longer buy from from Russia, who are the two new sources of energy? One is the United States, of course, but that's 4 times more expensive than what they used to pay. That's why Germany is in serious economic difficulty today. And the other source, I submit to you, will be from the Eastern Mediterranean basin. There will be Egypt and Israel. Is that good? Well, short term will be good. Long term, I'm not sure. I was just in Egypt twice last year. And the last time I was there, a former foreign minister said to me that they stopped pumping natural gas. And I didn't ask why. This is a sensitive subject. Maybe it's because the ambassador from Egypt is not here, right? Okay. I don't know, maybe mismanagement. So they're now refining mostly Israel natural gas. And as we talk, the pipeline is being discussed. And so you can imagine the world is no longer a new place after the Ukraine war. And my question is this, since the Russian ambassador is not here. My question is, will Russia do nothing when they see that in the old days, they get all the economic benefit from shipping natural gas to Western Europe. Of course, they're not the only one, but they are a big one and the closest. And will they watch other countries eat their lunch, so to speak? And so that's one side. The other side is 4 ministers, ministerial level people from 4 countries from the Middle East told me this, including your country and your country. Not you, but that, Professor Lee, yes. That America is no longer a primary player in that part of the world. It's no longer the dominant player in that part of the world. You can deny it, but I heard it with my own ears. 4 ministerial people from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, and Egypt. And I don't think that they will relinquish that region altogether. But that said, given the size of America, their movement, one way or another, will tip the balance of a lot of things. And I even have this opinion. My European friends may not like it. But that's why I say this is a one-man view. I believe that America is on the way out of Europe as well. Inevitable for what has happened over the last 40, 50 years. And so, like it or not, this is a brave new world that we have never seen before. So let me turn now to the China-US relations. We all know that, today there's a lot of talk about the Thucydides trap. People agree with it, people don't agree with it. Doesn't matter. I said, forget about the term. My friend Graham Allison just is smart enough to give it a name that sells it very well and it sells his book very well. The reality is, whether you like it or not, it's nothing more than human nature. And people say, I don't believe in Thucydides trap. I said, when did you stop believing in human nature? Human nature didn't change. And it's been like that for the last billions of years. What made you think that human nature has changed? For the number one to try to contain the number two is a natural instinct almost. I thought for a long time that perhaps the United States will be enlightened enough to not fall into that trap. But over the last 10, 20 years, we all know what happened. And so that too will change everything. For example, deglobalization is inevitable. Like it or not, it's already happening. You can deny it as diplomats. Diplomats are very good at sorry. Anyway, you know what I mean. And so, deglobalization is a thing that is real. And imagine the inflationary impact of that. You have to rebuild a second supply chain, for example. Can you do it? Frankly, I don't think so. And even if you do succeed, it will take you 15, 20 years. And you have to rebuild everything. The duplicate the infrastructure, the cement, the steel, the whatever. The inflationary pressure of that is going to be tremendous. 2 weeks ago, I hosted Jamie Dimon. Many of you know him, the JP Morgan chairman. I hosted a dinner for him in Hong Kong with touring people at the Asia Society. And it's very clear that he talked about all kinds of risks. As a banker, he's one of the very, very best in risk containment, right, and management. But if you were to listen to his speech carefully, and it's on record now, you will hear his 2 main concerns are none of those things that he talked about, which as a banker he has to talk about. His 2 main concerns are number 1, geopolitics, similar to what I'm talking right now. And number 2, inflation. Inflation. So, like it or not, who is the biggest loser of an inflationary environment? Well, whoever has the most debt. And we all know who that is. And so, the challenges that is going to that both China and the United States will face is tremendous. We all know you all live in Beijing. I don't live in mainland China. I live in Hong Kong. And so you know mainland China more than I do. suffice to say that the several big economic challenges are real. For the last 8-9 years, I've been speaking, I've been the keynote of the biggest real estate conference in China, held every August in Hainan. And while there, I've been warning everybody that the residential real estate model in place at the time is not sustainable. The fact that the government would not allow the little bubbles, a company that go bust, to go bust, creates a tremendous moral hazard. And eventually, once small bubble, a second, a third, a fourth, eventually become one big one that just imploded on its own weight. I don't think that China is without capability to handle it, but it's going to be very, very serious, not just as a financial exercise, but as a policy exercise. In the old days, all the local governments sell land, and then my developers, not me, I never bought land like that. All the developers in Hong Kong, in the mainland, buy land at high prices, and eventually overbuild to the hill. And so, from now on, nobody is going to buy land, and certainly not at high prices. And you know the supply-demand situation. We all know that. It's commonly known. And so how will the local government get the money? They have to have some policy changes that will be installed. And I think that it also will change a lot of things in the world. And even a lot of people talk about the internet companies. Why are they, the way they are? I said, I fully agree with what the Beijing government did to deal with the internet companies. In fact, 5 years ago, I called up one of the biggest internet platform company in this country, one of the 4 original founders, and still involved. I said, have you ever thought of voluntarily breaking up your own company? Because every responsible government will have antitrust laws and antitrust practices. Look, remember, the Standard Oil of California, Standard Oil of Ohio, Marvell, AT&T, all those companies and institutions were dismantled because of antitrust reasons. So one of these days, you guys are absolutely anti-competition. Any little companies cannot grow because a few of you just buy them up. Wang Xin is supposed to be here, he hasn't arrived. He's a friend of mine from Meituan. He's the chairman of Meituan and founder. He's one of those. Since he's not here, I can talk about it. His problem. 1 minute, okay. Wang Xin is a good friend, he's a good friend. Anyway, so it's not that you can see it. You can see it coming. A guy like me looking from the outside in Hong Kong, I watched the situation and I said antitrust law and antitrust practices absolutely will come. He called me back a week later and said, we thought about it, we discussed it, we decided not to do anything. Okay, you own the company, we respect property rights, you live with your decision, and we all know what happened. And so it is not like something that people cannot foresee. Many of us foresaw that all those internet platform companies will have to undergo changes because they're already anti-competition. And so on and on. And of course, they also spend so much money during COVID on the 3rd year, but don't forget, the first 2 years, China did it right. And China had a great time economically, just like the last year was a little bit problematic. So for all those reasons, China is facing a lot of challenges, as we all know. But let me also mention a few challenges that the United States is facing, and I will end. The United States has its own challenges as well. I'll give you 5. Number 1. America is a country at war with itself. Political is locked up that it cannot move. I have seen the deterioration of the political process in America. I lived there since 1967 for about 16 years. I saw it deteriorate over that period of time. No longer possible to compromise and negotiate these things. So you have the political problem, and then you have the wealth divide, you have the race problem, and in America you have a unique thing that is issue-based divides. from gender to guns to narcotics to immigration to many others. So America is really a country at war with itself. And if Trump were to win, which all my US friends tell me that is possible, very likely actually, then imagine what would that do? And I said, if Trump wins, three things for sure will happen. The internal splintering of the country will continue faster. Number two, America will lose the respect it commands, hard-earned during World War II, faster. And number three, the whole world, because of the deglobalization process that America initiated, will cause a fracturing of the entire world because you're forced to choose sides. When I tell you to choose sides, you don't have to listen to me. I'm nobody. If America tells you to choose sides, you have very little choices. And so that's point number one. Point number two, financial crisis. I have been working with the finance industry for the last 50 years. I just don't see how a financial crisis does not come within the next few years. It always does, and it will. Number three, nobody can damage the supremacy of the US dollar. Only one country can. Which country is that? America itself. And America, for the last 20, 30 years, has been doing double time to damage the supremacy of the US dollar by itself. You lock up everybody's assets. You give it to their enemy. You do not allow them to trade through the SWIFT, and so on and so forth. And eventually, not only your enemies are looking, your allies are watching. Your allies are saying, hey, today they can do this to that country, what about tomorrow? It may happen to me. So when the Singaporeans begin to buy gold a year or two ago en masse, an Indian friend said, this is the beginning of the de-dollarization of Singapore. Now, Singapore is small. You may say they're not important, but they are very important. And so when Singapore began to do that, a lot of other people are watching. And of course, they're not the first one. They're not the only one. A lot of other countries are already doing that. Russia being one of the earliest ones, and China as well. So I think that the US dollar is under tremendous pressure. I never accept the fact people say it will not break because no alternative. Ladies and gentlemen, Beijing is full of high-rise. If all the buildings are on fire except mine, I'm US dollar, mine is not burning. Everybody else is burning. No alternative, so, and you're on the 80th floor and somebody call on the 50th floor and say, sir, fire is at the 50th floor. 5 minutes later, they call and say, sir, fire is at the 60th floor. I'm not going to go, there's no alternative. Every other building is burning. Will you not go down? The first thing you do is to go down and worry about the rest later. So I never accept those truisms that people assume to be the case. They are not true. And so that worries me tremendously. Number 4, there may be some diplomatic and military mishaps on the part of the United States that will leave the US dollar naked. Without if the military protective network, the confidence of which is being questioned by the rest of the world, then the US dollar will be left naked. Then that is the nuclear bomb that the world will have to face, and not just the United States. And finally, number 5, allow me to be a little bit nasty, which I always am anyway. I grew up under the British colonial days. If you were to tell a Chinese, you're hypocritical, the Chinese will say, I am not. You tell American, you're hypocritical, the American will say, not only am I not hypocritical, I am the incarnation of righteousness, don't you know? And if you were to tell a Brit, I hope there's no British friends here, if they are, so be it. If you tell a Brit, you are hypocritical, what will he say? He will have a small grin and say nothing. His grin means, I heard you. At the end of the day, who is the most self-aware? Who is the most honest? It's a Brit. But if you put yourself on a pedestal that I am the incarnation of righteousness, and then facts prove that you're just like the rest of the world. Everybody is hypocritical, and you think you are not, but you are perhaps worse in many ways. There may be a very strong reaction, a social, psychological shock in the American system that may well bring, and this is my last point, that may well bring America back into isolationism. Don't forget, America was never founded in internationalism. It was founded in isolationism. 1823, Monroe Doctrine, exceptionalism, beginning in the 19th century, continuing until today. Never joined the League of Nations. In the 1920s, the trade embargo that caused the Great Depression of 1929. So all those things are serious matters that are affecting U.S. and through them affect the world. How would it end? There's no winner in China-U.S. contest. There's no winner possible. But there can be a loser. But it doesn't have to have a loser. Let me explain. Both sides cannot win, but both sides can lose. By not losing, you wait for the other guy to lose. And that is the sad game that we are playing. My personal assessment is that it is not how many punches you can throw, it is how many punches you can accept. And I suspect that in China, they can accept it perhaps better. I grew up in the Vietnam War era. Those were the days when all my classmates were anti-war marchers. America's system does not allow it to engage in a long-term contest. And that's why even in the Olympics coming next month, or later this month, next month, America wins all the 100-meter DAPA until recently. A lot of the short sprints. They never win the long distance race. And so I think that, like it or not, the world is such a troubled place. I'm so glad that I live in Hong Kong. I think it's still one of the best places to live. If you read the Western newspaper about Hong Kong, I say, hey, let's differentiate between political talk and economic reality. All of you guys are experts in political talk. I'm a business guy. I'm more concerned over the economic reality. And so I think that I'm happy that I'm living in Hong Kong. I travel the world all the time. I'm in the United States every month. I ran around the world 3 times last month alone. So it's nothing new to me. And I think the world is in a considerable challenge position that we better be ready for cataclysmic changes. Then what happen, I believe, starting from now until the next 10 years, it will be a decade that is most consequential in the world. And let's hope that we'll be able to get through these 10 years, all of us still as friends, and live in peace. If we can live through 10 years of that, I will buy you lunch again. But I think that the chances are good that if you take my bet, you will be buying me lunch. Whatever it is, thank you, Henry, for the lunch you brought.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie, for a very insightful and also of course, comprehensive review of the global situation, particularly from your own experience. You've been traveling around and working around, and you have a very unique perspective. I think it's great to know your perspective as a global citizen and also, of course, as a businessman. And so we're very pleased to have you and to give us your latest thinking. And it's, this is also thought for food and food for thought, and so that is really very stimulating, and I appreciate your frank and straightforward and also very encouraging words. And I think a lot of analysis will be very helpful for us to look at the world and how we're going to meet all the challenges and embrace the opportunities. So once again, I want to thank Ronnie very much for his excellent speech. some time for the Q&A later, but I also, because we have already half of our time, I would like to proceed to the next speaker. But while you continue your lunch, so we're having both at the same time. And so the next speaker is Professor Li Daokui. He's the Director of Academic Center for Chinese Economic Practice and Thinking, abbreviated as ACCEPT, which is from Tsinghua University. Daokui is an old friend, and also Daokui is on academic council of CCG as well. He's an academic advisor as well. So David is actually a leading Chinese economist. He has been a Mansfield Friedman Chair Professor of Economics at Tsinghua University since 2006. So that's almost 18 years ago. And together with Eric Sen Meeting 2007 Nobel laureate of the economics, is the co-president of the Society for the Analysis of Government and Economic, this institution, SAGA. He also served as the founding dean of the Strassman College of Tsinghua University from 2014 to 2017. We know how difficult to start things, so Strassman is not world renowned, but as a founding dean, I'm sure you take a lot of pride on that. And David's research and teaching covers a wide range of economic fields, including the government, economics, economic development, comparative economics, and of course Chinese economy, which is what we want here today. And as a director of the Center for China in the World Economy, which has evolved to become Academic Center of Chinese Economic Practice and Thinking, except of the Tsinghua University, he has been actively in political discussion inside and outside China. Since 2008, he has been a member of Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC. And so Professor Li holds a PhD in economics from Harvard University. He obtained his BS bachelor's degree from Tsinghua University in 1985 as a member of the first cohort of the graduates of School of Economic Management. I believe at that time it was really prestigious to graduate from the first cohort of Tsinghua University Economic Development. So let's welcome David to give us his thinking on the race.
Thank you very much, Henry, not only for your very generous introduction, but also for your invitation. Whenever I have any opportunity to stay in the same room as Ronnie Chan, I always would join. Okay, actually 2 days ago we were together. However, I was trying to catch an airplane, so I didn't get enough of you. Okay, so truly, excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. Today is very special. Okay, Ronnie just shared with us his really globalist views of the world. He calls himself a businessman. Actually, I think it's the only business person who can be called a GPPE. When I was hearing, I was coming up with the acronym. What is GPPE? Global political philosophy and economy. Right? It covers everything. That's GPPE, okay? In universities, we have PPE as a major. Now, I think Ronnie reminds me of GPPE. Wonderful to be here, and also Wang Huiyao, our schoolmate from Tsinghua University. Wonderful to see you. Okay, so Ronnie has already covered lots of ground, also with deep insights. So let me be very narrow. Let me be only talking about Chinese economy with 3 super simple messages. I hope you can remember. Okay, the 3 simple messages. The first message is that the economy is running below its GDP growth potential. The economy is not growing as well as we economists would like. So we are growing below the potential, meaning that not only the GDP growth rate is below what should be 5.7, 5.8%, which is the norm for these episodes of the Chinese economic development. But also we have deflation. We have inflationary pressure. Okay. In fact, the PPIs have been the producer product index has been negative for easily easily 10, 15 quarters. And the CPI has been centering around zero. So all these signs indicate the economy is running below its GDP potential. That's a very simple point. I think we should, we academics as economists, we should definitely recognize this, okay? The second point that I want to mention is that people are very much aware of the problems causing the GDP running below its potential, okay? The problems are threefold. The problems are the symptoms are highly recognized by policymakers, by top leaders, and by academics. There are three very explicit problems, and they are the following. Number one, the property market. The property market is facing, I would call mainly a liquidity problem. It's not necessarily a long-term problem, it's a liquidity problem. Because in the long run, there still will be more demand for housing. Remember that only 50% of the population have been fully assimilated into urban lives. There are 50% of the population who are either living in the countryside, who look to move to cities one way or the other, or who have been already living in cities. Meanwhile, they are not able to buy, they are not allowed to buy a piece of property or bring their kids to live with them in cities. These we call migrant workers. They earn pretty good salary. This morning I experienced 美团小哥. I experienced live on 美团小哥. I rode my electrical motorcycle here. Okay, I have my rain jacket, so I rode together with them. Okay, this is a good experience for me. Okay, I'm running weight. I'm raising weight. I'm not raising them. Okay, I'm running weight. You are hundreds of, no, 500,000, I guess, 500,000 employees of yours, okay? So they are salary in Beijing, 美团小哥, a 美团 delivery man, I think is earning something close to 10,000 RMB, right? If they're working hard enough. At least 8,000, right? 8,000. What, after tax? Net income, 7,000, right? A month. A month, of course. A month in RMB. Pretty good salary. Of course, they work very hard. Okay, we should appreciate them. I always give them extra bonus. 打赏. I always give them 打赏. bonus. Okay. So property market issue is liquidity. And the problem is partially aggravated by the current policy. The current policy is to make sure property developers are able to finish their projects in cities. And so local governments are holding on to the pre-sale, down payment, not letting the headquarters of developers to move around the down payment for the pre-sale, leaving the headquarters of developers running for cash. And the headquarters of developers borrowed a lot of money. And now they are in liquidity trap. And this is causing defaults in Hong Kong and defaults in some cases in mainland China. This is causing the RMB to face pressure in the exchange rate. This is causing a downgrading of China's sovereign credit rating. Okay, so that's the number one problem. The second problem, which is even more important to keep in mind, is the local public debt. How large is local public debt? My research team, have been working very hard. We are doing our grassroots estimates of the level of local debt. Roughly speaking, it is 100% of GDP. How high is 100% of GDP? Local governments cannot simply service the interest payment of this debt. The question is why? How? Why we came to this? And whether it is a good thing or bad thing, okay? So I would say we have to put ourselves in historical perspective. Okay, I would argue in general or in principle, these local public debt actually, they exist for wonderful reasons. These public debt was issued, all the debts were issued not for cash subsidies for households. Instead, the majority of them, 80% of them, were used to finance local infrastructure. For the past 15 years since the global financial crisis. And looking back, I think China did the right thing, because for the past 15 years, labor cost has been low. Land overall has been not expensive as today. And private housing has not been fully developed. That's the best time to build up infrastructure. If you go to cities like Chongqing, if you go to cities like whatever city, Tianjin, they are brand new centers. Zhengzhou, Chongqing. This is the right decision. Build up your infrastructure when labor cost was low, when land price was low, when private housing is not there yet. You do it beforehand. But in China, central government was not willing to come up with big funds to finance infrastructure. Let local government do it. The issue now is that these infrastructure investments will stay there for 30, 40, 50, even 100 years. Why push me and my fellow citizens to pay? My kids have to pay. My grandsons have to pay. So why not extend the payment of the infrastructure debt to 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, even 100 years? Why not? So, however, as this, our government has not been quick enough in converting the local debt into long-term debt. They are doing that in a rather timid, rather cautious way. Okay, so this right now is causing pain to the Chinese economy, because local governments are huge players in the market economy. They should be. They are buyers. They are buyers of a lot of public service. They are paying. They're delaying their payment to a lot of companies. So this is I think the biggest problem of today's Chinese economy. The local debt has to be restructured. The third issue is a long-term issue. That is, to be very frank, our economy, Chinese economy, is a supply-side economy. Or rather, our policies are always supply-side policies. We talk to a local government. They'll be very. If we talk to the mayor, let's be very specific. The mayor or governor of province, the mayor, who or she, whether he or she, will be very excited. 5 minutes after meeting you, the person will list the local project. Oh, here we are going to have a new project of solar panels. We have a new project of TV screen. We have a new project of producing certain kinds of computer chips. Okay, we have certain projects to convert our land into a beautiful new city center. Okay, so they are centered, they are excited, they are riveted to investment projects. But if you ask them, how about the consumption? Are you relaxing your restrictions on motorcycles? What is that? They are puzzled. Are you planning to relax the restrictions on purchasing of automobile? Or we'll do something. We'll think about it. So everybody, all mayors, all officials are like a producer wanting the other cities to buy the stuff that we produce. You consume, we produce. Okay, I'm being very frank. So, but this is changing. This is changing. This is causing a problem. This is causing a problem of our economy being super fast, in turning 1 to 1 million. We may not be as quick as the US in turning 0 to 1. You know what I'm talking about? Innovation, 0 to 1. Right? We are quick in turning 1 to 1 million. Okay, so these are the three problems causing pain to today's Chinese economy, running around 5.3%, and we should be running around 5.7, 5.8%. My last point which I truly, really want you to take home, is that policymakers and the policymakers are working hard, and the policies are being put into place to deal with all these problems. As we speak, okay, a huge and super important central party committee conference will come in July. I don't know which part of July, but we are in June, so not too far. Okay, I'm sure major policies and major policy directions will be announced. So people are very much aware of the problems. People are very much. So what are the likely and the tangible policies put in place to deal with all three problems? Well, let's talk about them one by one. Property market, the key is twofold. Number one, get rid of the restrictions on housing purchase. You know, there are restrictions on housing purchase. You are not allowed to buy a piece of property in Beijing as a foreigner. As a citizen from other cities, as a resident from other cities, you're not allowed to buy a piece of property in Beijing. This kind of thing was used for 12 years ago. 12 years ago, in 2012, when the property market was super hot. I argued for that. I supported the policy of housing restriction. I was blamed even to today by my fellow economists. But today's situation is totally different. So China is getting rid of housing purchasing restrictions, city by city. Hangzhou, Xi'an, and this came from Shenzhen. Shenzhen, I think the large apartments are now free to trade. Okay, so this is number one, to lift restrictions on housing demand. As I said, still 50% of the population will have to buy a new piece of property to live in cities to reside. Okay, the other policy which I'm confident will be put in place actually already now and more is coming. Provide direct financial support for the headquarters of developers. The developers themselves, some of them may be perceived to be criminals. Maybe, I have no opinions on this. They may have done very bad things. However, don't punish us. Don't punish us by not providing liquidity to the developers so that the company will default and therefore the credit rating will come down. We are innocent. So provide necessary liquidity to develop the headquarters of developers. Make sure they can stay and restructure later on. Don't let these companies create new troubles for the Chinese economy. So that's the first area of tangible policies I look for. Second area of tangible policies is for restructuring local debt, which I take tremendous interest in. I'm working very hard on this. I've been arguing this for the past 10 years. There's no other way. The only way to deal with this, and very good way, very desirable way to deal with local debt issue, is for the central government to issue tremendous amount of new sovereign debt, as high as 30, 40, 50% of GDP, and use that to restructure the local debt, meaning swap out local debt. Now, why this is the only one? Because the central government is the source is, I argue without any hedging, okay? Chinese central government is the richest central government in the world, with shares of the 3 mobile phone operators, 6 highly profitable central government-owned commercial banks, China Merchants Group, China Resources, you name it. China Resources, Barron used to be, and I think still is, the world's most profitable non-financial conglomerate. Why not? The central government is now only holding 20% of public debt. What are they doing? And you know, the recent 12% of Chinese Ministry of Finance debt is held by foreign companies, by other central banks. This is a hot commodity. This follows the last point of Ronnie's, okay? The Chinese central government debt is in high demand, not enough of it, because central banks want to hedge. What if the US Treasury bond is not doing as well as it has been, right? It's simple hedging. We're not doing that. We're not doing that, okay? So that's the only way to do it. Once we do that, once the Chinese government can do that, local governments will be freed. Local government will come back to its dynamism. They should have. Okay, so that area, that direction, I think is already articulated, but the pace is too slow. I'm working hard. I'm working hard inside China to push for this. Okay, the third area of reform I very much look for is turning the incentives of local governments from production to consumption. Okay, possibly by leaving some of the tax collected from local enterprises to regions, to cities where the cars, where motorcycles, bicycles, electronics products are sold. Right? If your region, you're able to generate or stimulate consumption, fine, the VAT, the tax associated with the consumption should go to you, right? Which will change the incentive. I think this is coming. Now, why is this? My final word of it. Why? You ask, oh, how come? What? What's your evidence? What's your argument? Why you are so confident? Well, 3 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, President Xi Jinping held a very important and I think highly interesting session with 10 entrepreneurs and economists. Not myself, I'm not there. Okay, not myself. I can talk freely. Okay, I have no national secrets in my mind. Okay, and at the end of the talk, at the end of the seminar, let's call it seminar. Okay, at the end of the seminar, President Xi said several things. 2 things stay in my mind. 2 things. He said, now let's rejuvenate our reform by focusing on the most urgent and the burning issues. Let's work on the problems now. Let's not just talk in vain, talk in big, rhetorics. Okay, let's talk about real solutions. The other point is that let's restart our reform by making sure citizens can see the benefit. So what are the things citizens are looking for? Consumption. It's supposed to be. So I strongly believe next round of reform is coming, and these reforms will not only solving urgent issues which are preventing the Chinese economy from reaching its potential, but also generate consumption, generate disposable income for people on the street. Okay, thank you very much. Finally, I spent 12 years. I'm taking out the risk of writing this book called China's Worldview. Okay, China's Worldview, published by W. Norton. Okay, and it's only available officially outside China. I ordered 30 copies. However, they are not nowhere to be found in the customs. Anyway, so I violated my agreement with the publisher. I copied multiple copies here in China. So if you want, first come, first serve. I put it here, somewhere in the corner. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, David, and for your very insightful and also very policy-driven discussion and your thought sharing. I think it's really great. I mean, we need a lot of proposals, and you talk about the infrastructure that China was really built on for the young people. And absolutely, we need to share those infrastructure with other generations to come. And China has already about 70% of global speed railway and 70% global 5G system. So this is really, we need to really delay payment. Absolutely, a good idea. But on real estate, I think you have also proposed quite a few good ideas. For urbanization, certainly the big one. And but I would like to add that we have 300 million migrant workers, and that they all have household land and rural area. If we can really privatize the household land and let them to circulate, to transact, that will really stimulate enormous demand for the real estate market, and also for the urban residents to go down to the countryside to purchase the household land there. That would be, I think, the low-hanging fruit. So we hope that there will be more innovative policies. Now, I would like to, since you have distributed books, I would like to have the Q&A for both Ronnie and David. So, any questions and comments and observations are welcome to raise. And also, you should have a microphone somewhere. I don't know if, since we have a master from Portuguese here today, you from the, also, been to Macau and, Ronnie's from Hong Kong, but you go to Macau quite often. So perhaps you could share a few thoughts on what we can expect for the Great Bay Area and also the development. And you were at our meeting in Macau last year. So maybe got questions.
Thank you very much, Mary. Well, actually, yes, profiting the fact that we have someone coming from Hong Kong here. My point would be, we have been looking carefully, and I think we are not probably the only embassy in Beijing doing so, to the Great Bay Area idea. And I call it idea because, in spite of the fact that it has been around for now, well, I think first ideas on what became the Great Bay Area in the 2000, around that. The fact is that for the time being, we know what is foreseen. I mean, the integration of the 9 cities, 7 in the mainland, plus the special administrative regions of Macau and Hong Kong. But to be honest, even in spite of the fact that we also know, because it has been announced that Hong Kong has a special role to play in terms of logisticals and finance, that Guangzhou has a special role to play in terms of change and innovation, Guangzhou in education, Macau in culture. The fact is that it's still hard for us to understand completely how these different, even legal realities are going to work together. I mean, from the infrastructure's point of view, it's quite easy to understand that, although it's more probably easy to connect infrastructures in mainland than with the other 2 special regions, even though advances have been made on that respect. I mean, there is the railway between Hong Kong and Guangzhou. There is a bridge between Macau and Hong Kong. There is the ancient reinforced cooperation area between Zhuhai and Macau. But on the legal framework, which is going to in the future orient and be the structure under which everything is going to work, it's not clear for us. And so there are still some doubts on this. We are absolutely convinced this is a project that is going forward in a high speed, but at the same time, I think it would be useful for everyone to understand it better. I've been, as Harry said, in Macau for a couple of times. Every time I go to Macau, I speak with people there, authorities, civil society, entrepreneurships about that. When we go to Hong Kong, it's the same thing. I was recently in Hong Kong with my Minister of Economy, and in Macau also with him. And it's hard to understand. So I would be really great if we could have your views, both of you, on how you see this going on. Thank you.
First of all, I'm a business guy. I'm here to make money. And wherever there's money, as long as I can figure legally out to it. When Shenzhen first rose, I didn't believe it. Because I saw the whole Shenzhen. I stood in one end of the street, I can see the other end, and that's it. Look at Shenzhen today, 22 million people. And one of the top countries in the whole of China, and a technological center. Pudong, when they opened up, I didn't believe it. Until today, I do not own a single inch of land in Pudong. I bought in Puxi, and today the office rent in Pudong is higher than in Puxi. My building in Puxi is the highest rent in Puxi, but Pudong is higher than me. So, with the Greater Bay Area, you just put a name to it, GBA. Whether you put a name to it or not, the reality is the economic activities are going to continue. Just like if you don't have the central government pushing it, it may take 20, 30 years. With the government putting a label to it and pushing it, you may accomplish it in 10. And so the GBA is a very, very natural thing. One of the biggest problems in the old days is that Hong Kong people have a sense of superiority. That is really, really stupid. And when mainland Chinese people come to Hong Kong to buy, and they hit them, and the same guy who hit the mainland Chinese guys buying in Hong Kong 10, 15 years ago, is today every weekend shopping in Shenzhen. It's cheaper. In the old days, quality is not as good, but today it's equally as good. And I just joked, I said, let's hope that nobody will hit them. I don't think anybody will hit them, but they certainly deserve to be hit. Anyway, so, a lot of people in Hong Kong say, hey, it's terrible. Hong Kong people are leaving to shop in Shenzhen. I said, what's wrong with that? Such as economic reality. Face the music. Grow up. Whether it's cheaper over there, equal quality, people will go there to shop. And you now can go there in 15 minutes on a high-speed train. The first stop is 15 minutes away. And so, that kind of integration, I think, in the longer haul is good for Hong Kong. As far as the mainland, as far as the whole GBA is concerned, it will take some time for it to find its place. In particular, mainly because the Hong Kong piece was a little bit different. And as you mentioned, Master, that the laws, the language, and so forth are still a little bit of an issue. The language issue is disappearing, but the law issue is still there. But how does it differ? I just came in from Mexico. I came in from Ensenada and Tijuana. And how does it differ when you have huge nexus of economic activities between Mexico and China and the United States, which have different language, different law, right? And they just adjust. It's not a big deal. When there's money to be made, people will adjust. So I think sooner or later, the Hong Kong and the rest of the GBA will, of necessity, get together. Moreover, Hong Kong's, 50 years ago in Hong Kong, where did we win our money? In the United States. Because those were the days America was dominant in the world economically speaking, and in many other ways. So Hong Kong people have no choice but to look to America. And then Europe rose. Europe rose. So we went to Europe. That's where the money is. And then Japan rose. And then we go to Japan. Today, Hong Kong is still one of the largest export markets for Japan in many fields and many products. Where is the money today? America, the money is not allowed to come to Hong Kong in terms of the stock market. So the biggest money for the last 30 years for Hong Kong as an economic city is the mainland of China. Only problem is the Hong Kong people have a little bit of a heart problem. They have a little bit of psychological problem. Now, I think Hong Kong is getting grown out of that. And Hong Kong will increasingly integrate into the GBA area. People then say, in my opinion foolishly, that Hong Kong will become another mainland city. I said, these guys are blind. We have a different law, we have a different language, we have a different connectivity with the rest of the world. How can it be another city? And in fact, to be another city is not a bad thing, because that's where the money is, my friend. And so I think that Hong Kong's integration with the GBA is inevitable, and it's mutually beneficial. They cannot go without Hong Kong, and Hong Kong cannot go without them. For example, Hong Kong has top universities in the world. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong is the only university, is the only city in the world that has 4 universities that rank among the top 55 in the world. Even Boston, London do not come close. 4 universities rank among the top 55 in the world. But Hong Kong never had enough land to help those professors and students of science and technology to be entrepreneurs to build a business in Hong Kong. And so now, in the last 20 years, a lot of them have to move north into Shenzhen in order to succeed, such as many of you know that drone company, DJI. Right? So that's a student of mine from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. You taught there as well. So I think that these kind of things, by Hong Kong's integrating into mainland China psychologically as well as in many business ways, I think that it can only be good for Hong Kong and for the rest of GBA, which means that China will have another region that is going to be a fast-growing region. Now, obviously, we have been the Pearl River Delta has been the supply chain center in the world, the biggest supply chain in the world. And in as much as America want to desegregate, I think that eventually the inflationary pressure is going to be so huge that America itself will not be able to withstand. Where else? You tell me one place in the world, and I will tell you why it cannot build what Hong Kong has built, what the Pearl River Delta has built. The only other place is the Yangtze River Delta. I go around the world. As I told you, I went around the world 3 times in 1 month. And when I go around the world, I just cannot find another place that has all the ingredients necessary to build another supply chain center. So I think that the GBA will continue to be important in that regard as well. Sorry for the long-winded answer to your question, Mr. Ambassador.
Okay. So, any more questions? Yes? Okay. Yeah, we'll have the BBC. Okay. Good.
Hello, Stephen from the BBC. I've got a question for Professor Li. You mentioned you wanted to scrap the restrictions on property purchases. Now, one of the reasons they were brought in is because people just couldn't afford to buy property because, these debates going on all over the world, by the way. You mentioned the delivery drivers are earning their $7,000 a month. If you take away those restrictions, property prices go up. How does that help them buy into the market? Won't it make it worse for them? Now, I know this is a problem. Everyone's looking for a way to reinvigorate the property market, but many Chinese people I speak to, so those restrictions should have come in much earlier and actually should have been much tougher. And you take them away and up the prices again, and you've got this huge, ridiculous split in society between those who can and can't afford to buy property. As a comparison, I'm from Sydney. When my parents were young, everybody who had a good job, everybody could buy a house. Any normal job, you can buy a house. Now, people in Australia can't, not in big cities, and some people never will. And so the debate has been going on along these lines, and some are saying they want restrictions along the lines of what the Chinese government actually brought in, because property is different to other sectors of the sectors of the economy. So how are you going to, under your proposal, how do those people get into the property market? The ones earning $7,000 quietly.
David.
Wonderful question. Wonderful question. I know you are journalists. You're not even doing business. Okay? Do you know that households are very different, one from the other? People are very different. There are people who have high income. There are people who have low income, and there are different kinds of demand. Demand for housing. Right now in Beijing, in Shanghai, it is relatively expensive apartments which are in high demand. Okay, so this is not that everyone is the same. Oh, we have same income, housing price too high. Okay, so that's my first point. Okay, so let the market go. You are supposed to believe in free market. You're coming from the UK, right? Or BC, right? I'm a believer more than you do. Okay. Second point, more important, very important point. Okay, the way to solve issue of affordability of housing is very simple. The Chongqing model: supply more land. Seriously, provide more land for housing construction. Now, why in Beijing the housing price is so high? Take my university, my neighborhood as a case study. I'm from Daokui, right? 40 minutes away, 50 minutes away from here. Daokui, Tsinghua University. We call ourselves, so here we have Daokui alumni, okay? Tsinghua University, we call ourselves center of universe. It's not because of housing price, not because we do academically so well, okay? Center of universe, right? Why? Why the housing price is so high near Tsinghua University in Daokui? Simply because business is booming. The local government of Haidian wanted, or has been wanting, to collect tax by setting up office building. Ronnie knows this very well. So in comparison with land for housing construction, allocate the land for office building. By having office building, they call it fancy name Tsinghua University Science Park. Okay, startups come. When some of them become like Wang Huiyao one, they collect tax. Even if you're losing money, they still collect tax from you, right? You pay tax, right? Payroll tax. You're not profitable. Congratulations, you're not profitable, right? Still you pay more tax. Good news, you pay more tax. Like bike guys. 1 kilometer away from Tsinghua University, the biggest taxpayer of Beijing. So local governments Beijing are super rational. They allocate land to office building, to factories. If there's a tremendous business opportunity somewhere, they don't allocate land for housing. Chongqing got it right. Chongqing said, okay, we have plenty of land for housing development, okay? If the housing price goes up, we'll provide more land. So in Chongqing, the most expensive piece of property, I think it's called Raffle Center, right? Last time I checked, still something like 30,000 to 40,000 RMB per square. This is the fanciest, this is 5-star, 6-star apartment building. So that's the solution. That's the right way to go. So I'm more free market than maybe you think.
But the market doesn't work elsewhere. It doesn't work.
Well,
not in terms of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. In principle, the market works most of the time, and when it doesn't work, the government should come in to resolve the problem. Right? The government should provide adjustments. In the housing market, we have done this for many years. I think now it's clear to everyone. Provide more land for housing construction if housing price goes up. That's the right way to go. So I think we can debate about this for a long time. Let me stop here.
BBC asked a question, CNN has asked a competitor question. My question is actually for both Ronnie and David, Stephen John, CNN. I'm sure you've read recently in an interview with Time, President Biden described China's economy being quote-unquote on the brink. That obviously is not something you share based on what you just said, but I just wonder, given he has all the intelligence briefings and cabinet secretary advice, do you think there is any validity to that kind of assessment, or is it just pure politics? And also, what kind of, if and how problematic it would be for both the U.S. and China's economies if he's making decisions based on that assumption, right? And related to this is, do you think this is simply a gap between perception versus reality. Because if you talk to people both outside and inside China, there's a lot of people who are quite pessimistic, despite what you guys have said. You know, David, you made a lot of proposals. People will say that's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, right? I've heard that analogy too. So I'm just wondering, do you think there's a reason for that, and how do you address that? Is there, due to some reason, the Chinese government's own doing, for example, that prioritizing security over everything else, including economic growth? Thank you.
Ronnie, please. Ronnie, please.
Well, first of all, if you cannot tell the difference between political talk and economic reality, you should not be in business, so stay as a journalist. I mean, just listen to what the American government, many of the Western government have said about China. And it bears no resemblance to reality. 讲的就讲了, it's really, really sad. But on the other hand, that's what, I'm sorry, that's what politicians do. They have a political agenda to accomplish, and it doesn't matter whether it's factual or not, they just say it. And when you're powerful enough, and for example, they keep saying that the Ukraine war is unprovoked. Ladies and gentlemen, really? Don't you know the facts? They keep saying Russia is winning, Russia is losing, and Ukraine is winning. I go to Russia every year before the COVID. I go to Ukraine periodically. I have a lot of friends there. And my friends, I just came back from Poland. I help these women and children whose husbands are fighting in Ukraine. Horrific. So, you know, all those things that you read, you guys have no choice. When Biden says something, you have to report it. I feel bad for you. Those guys lie, you don't lie. You just report what they say. But if they lie and then you report it, what does that mean? So, you know, it's not a big deal. I mean, they can say whatever they want to say. China is China. And it doesn't mean that China doesn't have challenges. I told you a lot of the challenges that China is already having right now. And so that's why I say, you know, there's no winner in U.S.-China contest, but there can be a loser. And both sides can lose, right? And most of the times, when you lose, it's not because of international relationship, it's because of domestic affairs. Big countries always have big domestic issues, and both sides can lose it because of domestic affairs. And so, you know, we'll see what happens. Nobody can say there's a zero fact to whatever is said, but either 10% fact, 90% whatever, and then, but depends on who says it, right? And you get away with murder in the international politics. What's new? It's been like that for the last 5,000 years. So be it, accept it, and I go on happily making money, and I think China is still a good place. I'm still saving money right here. Money talks.
Ronnie put it very nicely, okay? It's really, truly a wonderful business person, okay? It's really super successful, okay? In the property market. In Shanghai, I knew your projects. Anyway, okay, very quick, very quick, okay? The economy is running still 3.9% nominal terms in China Q1. Nominal, the real price term, the real price is 5.3, whatever, you know, whether it's accurate or not. But nominal term, this is the first quarter's GDP in current price compared to last 3.9. And this economy is still turning out new innovative products. And this economy is still producing a lot of exciting, generate new companies. And this economy is still having people still lots of demand for your lunch boxes, right? Meituan. And people are going tourism the coming weekend, 3-day weekend. Lots of tourist spots will be congested, okay? This is not sign. There's no sign being collapsing, okay? It's not running as well as it should be. It's running below potential, okay? I'm being very accurate. That's true. That's when we recognize that, okay? By the way, the U.S. is running above its potential, causing the inflation problem, which is not sustainable. Let's not get into it, because two economies, U.S. China, always mirror images of each other. Really, mirror images. You watch out any feature of the U.S. economy, turn around, it's Chinese economy, vice versa. Okay. So I, as an economist, okay, I honestly disagree with his assessment. Okay. So I'm being very honest, very frank. The economy is not running as well as it should be. It's running below its potential, but it's not collapsing. And the most important, let me finish this question by the following. The party, the Secretary General Xi Jinping said last December, said one very important line. In Chinese is 发展是硬道理. Economic development is still job number one. This hasn't been said for many years. Now finally coming back. So this gives me confidence as an economist. 发展是硬道理. Deng Xiaoping's line. Deng Xiaoping, so you know Chinese. 发展是硬道理. So I don't know how to translate. Hard truth. No, I don't think it's hard to understand for Americans, for the UK, for the Brits. So I follow the Ford Motor Company's motto. It used to be quality is job number one. Right? Remember that in the 80s. So I say economic growth is job number one. Okay? Ford Motor Company's motto, okay? Translating into Chinese. Growth is job number one. For US company, quality is job number one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we do have time for one final question. Oh, okay, we got an economist, Ted. Okay.
Thanks very much for the lovely event and an insightful comment. I'm not an economist. I write for a magazine called The Economist.
Okay.
So, Professor Li, your recommendation that there be a shift away from production and towards more consumption, and you seem confident that third plenum may be this. I've been hearing it for a very, very long time. I remember 1998, it must have been, Premier Zhurongji was at his press conference and he said something like, "CCG Neishu," and I had to look up Neishu in my dictionary, internal demand. And Stephen Roach has been coming here for years and years saying we have to rebalance, less fixed asset investment, more consumption, encourage consumption. And it's been everyone's agreed this should be done, and it just hasn't been done for all these years. There are obstacles. As you say, policymakers are rational. There are good reasons why things do or don't happen. So I wonder now if you think you have more confidence that it might happen now. If so, why has it not happened all these years, and what is different that will allow it to happen now?
Good question. So let me brief answer this. I really would love Ronnie to have his insights to us first. Final words from you, okay? Always. Okay. My brief answer is this, okay? When you talk about internal demand, okay, over the years since Zhurongji, 内需, usually policymakers refer to domestic investment because in China, what we call 内需 is domestic investment plus domestic consumption relative to exporting, okay? But why? To answer the question, why policymakers have not been forthcoming with policies that you're used to, basic social welfare provision and public housing, so on and so forth. There's one fundamental belief, okay, which is now changing. That is if the government provides too much social welfare, the population will become lazy. Okay, I'm putting it in a brutal language. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not diplomatic. Okay, so we should not learn from. We should avoid getting into the problem of the British disease. You know, I'm sorry for people from Britain. In economics, we call it British disease. We have Dutch disease. Okay. Anyway, if you want it, okay. All countries, many countries have a disease. Dutch disease means that we will suddenly discover a lot of crude oil. Then you export crude oil, you get a lot of foreign currency. Then your currency appreciates so quickly that your domestic industry got tricked into, right? No competitiveness. Okay. The called the UK British disease is that the government provides too much social welfare. Therefore, people don't look for jobs. So China, somewhere, somehow, okay, for the past 40 years, when the incumbent policymakers were getting their college education, like myself, we were educated by what we call Western economics, which talk about the British disease. This is the Mrs. Thatcher. This is the Reagan era. So our mentality is framed by that. We're supposed to say, okay, the government should work hard on the supply side. Don't worry about demand side. Too much social welfare will kill the enthusiasm of the population for hard working. So I think we will not. At least we're pushing too hard in this direction. The Chinese people, in my view, are genetically, I hope you agree, Mr. Wang Xi, we are genetically programmed to work too hard. We should relax. We should relax. I'm criticizing myself, okay? I'm not criticizing anybody else. I can make jokes on our people, right? I'm not politically correct, right? So we're not relaxed enough. So much so that the little bit extra welfare programs for us, for our population, will not make us lazy. We wouldn't become lazy. Okay, so I think my friends in the policy community in the policy making community are coming to this realization. They're coming to this. No, so I really feel excited when I watched Chinese evening news, 7 p.m. evening news, CCTV, right? Where President Xi said, okay, let's do reforms to make sure the population can really feel it. I'm excited. I'm confident he refers to this. He refers to this. Next stage, we need reforms to provide more welfare. Let me just give one example to make things concrete. Right? When ladies deliver, when young ladies deliver a baby, you know what is the most difficult thing for Chinese families? Take care of the first month. What a tradition. What a tradition that the first month of the baby is most important in his life, her life. Okay? So tremendous energy spent in the first month. We call 坐月子, the first month, the first month care. Now, many families are worried about this, okay? Anticipating the huge cost of the first month of the baby caring. They wouldn't want the second baby, or not even the first baby. So I've been proposing that why not give 10,000 RMB to any family having a new baby, right? To take the first 1 month. Not a big deal. It's not huge of the money if you calculate it. It's a small amount of money in public finance. So I think my proposal is gaining popularity. We'll do that. We can do that. And there's a lot of interesting things we can do. Also, from age 3 to age 6, preschool education should be free for everybody. Our schools are losing students. Our population is not growing as fast as before. So there are many reforms which are not expensive from public finance perspective, which will be popular and which will relieve people of the burden of daily life, so they can consume more. Okay, so I think this is a win-win. Things are slow, but I'm confident they are coming along.
So you're saying a little bit of British disease would be okay?
Exactly. In Chinese, we have a saying, okay? We have a saying, all medicines are poison. But the right thing is you have to take the right combination of poison to cure your disease. We have all disease. I won't mention it, politically maybe incorrect. We have all problem, okay? But we need here and there formula from other economies' problems. Mix them, we take them. Poisons coming together in compound can solve our health problem. Okay, so let's have final words. I will propose, I suggest. Please.
I'm better to say.
Are you worried about the Chinese people getting the British disease? Are you worried about people not working too hard? Start working hard? No. I'm into you, okay?
No, I worry about many things in China, and I've been doing that for the last 40 years. But frankly, I look around the world, and I said, nobody's in a good shape. Everybody has its own challenges. The U.S. has tremendous challenges, as I mentioned. Europe, as far as I'm concerned, will be the place in the next 5, 10, 15 years that may undergo tremendous changes because of necessity. Europe is quickly becoming very, very uncompetitive. It's not just because of the oil price rising so much of late, but in many other areas,
So I think that there will be so much changes that is happening simultaneously in different parts of the world for different reasons and to different outcomes. And then how they interact with each other when they are facing their own domestic problems. That to me is a second, a tertiary derivative of just a simple problem of yourself. And that's why I begin by saying that there's a Chinese saying that I use, so let me first say it in Chinese. I've said it for the last year or two. 现在是保命、保本的时间，不是大发展的时间。Now is the time to stay alive, preserve your capital. Now is not the time to go and become aggressive, to expand in many, many ways for business people as well as for non-business people. And so, I'm an internationalist. I like to see U.S.-China live peacefully together. But if one side does not want it, there's nothing you can do. Especially when that one side is the stronger side, is the more powerful side. Let me conclude by amending something I said that I forgot, and that is the fact that America may be moving toward isolationism does not in any way imply that America is waning. Absolutely not. Their universities are still by far the best in the world, especially in basic sciences and picture sciences. Their ability to convert the science to technology, and from technology to commercial products, is by far the strongest in the world. Their capital market is still amazing. The economy is the most resilient. Their entrepreneurship is still very, very strong. So when I say that America is likely retreating to isolationism, let's make sure that none of us take it to mean that America is waning. They are not. They have the right to retreat to isolationism. Not many countries can do that. Among all the major countries in the world, I only know of two. Sorry, Canada is a lovely country, but only 37 million people. Right? Lovely country, but not that big population-wise. There's only two countries that can do that, and that's Russia, and that's the United States. China cannot do it because we don't have energy security. Even food security can be challenging, right? So America's retreating isolationism does not imply, in my mind, the waning of America. They just choose to take a breather. No one knows when they will come back out into the international scene, but they are not waning. So a lot of people in this country are now talking about 东升西降, right? The East is rising, the West is waning. I said, be careful what you say. I do not deny that Europe is having tremendous challenges. Henry Kissinger said to me, Europe is over. I said, no, come on, it's not over. He said, it is over. And Helmut Schmidt, the former German chancellor himself, a dear friend of mine for 35 years, before he passed on, he said to me that the First World War destroyed half of Europe, and whatever was remaining, the Second World War did it. So this is the view of two of my teachers. Whether you believe it or not, I suggest you be open-minded. So Europe, I think, is undergoing tremendous changes. It's seeking independence in 4 areas. Number 1, diplomatic independence, military independence, currency to some extent independence, and then economics. And so Europe has to undergo tremendous changes in order for it to continue to be a serious player in the world. And so you look around the world, India, and you know that I love India. Some of my best friends are Indians. And I have my worries there too. I don't know what you think about the latest election, but anyway, I can talk to you a lot about that one privately. So, you know, looking around the world, it's just very little places that are very, very encouraging. It is really, in some ways, who is the last man standing. Now is not the time to try to knock out each other. Now is the time to survive. If you survive, you win, because many will not. And so, sorry to leave you with such a pessimistic thought, but I have always been a rather optimistic person my whole life. But the last 5-10 years, I've increasingly come to a conclusion that, let me end by saying this. 12 years ago, I was in a hotel in Wuhan with my son looking at real estate, which is now the Heartland 66, Hong Kong Heartland 66, which is now a 7 million square feet, beautiful property there. Anyway, I said to my son that night, I said, son, I do not admire your generation. My generation is the luckiest, as I mentioned, but also the most irresponsible. We inherited an earth that is clean, we left it dirty. We inherited a world that is basically debt-free. Soon after World War II, after the initial war debts were paid off, it was basically debt-free. And then we now leave a world that is so debt-ridden that I can pay for it, you will have to, son, you have to pay for it. And on and on. I can say so much about that. And so, just a private, personal note to end my thoughts sharing. I don't have a grandchild. My wife is happy, my son is happily married. We love our daughter-in-law. I think you have better. You guys have better. She's a lovely girl, right? My son actually married up. She's an architect from Berkeley and then a master's from Harvard University and this and that. And my son was at the bottom of the pile in high school and in college. So my son married up, right? But they don't have children. They don't have children. And my wife and I tell our son and daughter-in-law, we are very happy not to have grandchildren. If you have it, we're happy. But if you don't have it, we're equally happy, if not more, because I see a world that you have to face, let alone your children have to face, that is so, pardon my language, so damn bad, that I'm not sure if I, as a responsible older man, want to have to bring into this world a young grandson or granddaughter that has a terrible prospect to the future. But I'm sorry, some of you may be very positive, very optimistic. As diplomats, you have to sing praises of your country, but sorry, that's not me.
Okay, thank you. So on that note, we'll finish our luncheon today, and we thank all of you, ambassadors, our counselors, and our media friends, our business executives, and also founders like Wang Huiyao. So we will close the lunch today, and we look forward to the next luncheon. Thank you all very much.